Good evening, guys. Teresa Davis here. A few of you, I think, seen me a few minutes ago. I was trying to go live through Zoom, so I learned how to do that today, and so I was trying that out, and it didn't work out so good. Anyway, I came to talk to you tonight about the grieving and our physical health. What I've noticed is when things start to recur in my thought process more than once, it's usually because the Holy Spirit is telling me to share what's on my mind. So, in a lot of my videos, and for those of you who follow me, I I share my grief journey and I attempt to help others in their grief journey as well. And I have talked much about the emotional effect of grief, and I have talked much about the spiritual effect of grief, especially in my own personal life. But tonight, I want to focus on our physical health. It's something that does not get much attention when we're grieving, especially in the early stages of grief, even up to maybe 2 years. Um, our physical health is just not something we focus on. And I have had a significant amount of help with my physical health. And I want to share that with you guys because I think it's important to know when it's grief compounded by physical issues that need to be addressed. And not only affected me, it's affected my husband. My husband, Tony, has been a healthy man his whole life. The only thing he's ever really had issues with is esophageal reflux. And since we've lost Andrew, he's developed high blood pressure and he is on 3 different high blood pressure medications. And so, interestingly, as a family, we have been doing a weight loss challenge to try to assist Tony as well as all the rest of us to get our weights in a more healthy range. Because honestly, guys, when you go through significant grief, food, you either lose all interest in food, because I did. I lost all interest in food and I lived on coffee and I lost a lot of weight. And then there comes a time when food becomes your comfort. And that happened to me. And honestly, I'll just be really vulnerable with you guys right now and just tell you that I gained 50 pounds since we've lost Andrew. Many of you who've listened to some of my videos that I record know that I would get up in the middle of the night and I would eat. And unfortunately, I didn't even realize how much I was eating, which is kind of scary. In my mind, I couldn't sleep. I would be able to go to sleep, but then I would wake up and then stay up all night because I could not manage the emotions that I was having, and it was really quite out of control. And I would think that I was having a little snack, and then I'd get up the next morning and realize I ate a half a jar of peanut butter. So you do things when you're in the heavy throes of grief that doesn't make sense, and you don't even, I honestly did not have any idea how much I was eating, and this went on for several months. So, and our daughter, Sarah, she's an internalizer. She holds stuff in. She's a fixer. She's a lot like me. We want to take care of everybody else but ourselves. So I really want to focus on the effects of grief on our health and when it's actually time to get help, guys, because of my personal journey. I think it's important. I want to share that with you. First of all, when you're in the throes of early grief, you're in what is called fight or flight. And that is a description of what happens to our cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that gives us extra strength and extra energy when we need it. And, our mind and body doesn't know that we are in the throes of grief. It just knows that we've got to have extra energy because we are staying in a state of high alert and stress for significant periods of time. And that is in it of itself can wreak havoc on our bodies. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about, my journey. Just so that it will help you figure out your journey. So I mentioned, how Tony is now on 3 blood pressure medications because of the way he sought help from a counselor in the beginning. But grief is hard, guys. It's just hard. And I want you guys to know when it's just not your grief alone that's causing you to not feel good. When I was in counseling, my counselor, Margie, thank God for her, because I was in somewhat of a stupor and barely able to function. And I want to mention this, guys, because I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 38 years, and I totally believe in the science behind medication. Medication is a wonderful gift given to us through God has just gifted us with so many people that has allowed us to be able to partake in medication that makes our life better. But here's the thing about medication, guys. There's risk and benefits to every medication. There's not a medication made that doesn't have side effects. And that includes supplements too, guys. So keep that in mind. So I was on some medication. I went to my primary care doctor and he was trying to help me through my grief process. But after about 18 months, physically, I was not any better. And I went back, and we had tried several different antidepressants, and one would work for a little while, and then I had side effects that were so severe I would have to stop them. And then I tried another antidepressant and a combination, and that was a disaster. That did not work. And finally, his only option that he gave me, as tears were streaming down my face sitting in his office, and I said to him, I've got to be able to function. I can't even walk down the street to the stop sign in front of my house without being completely exhausted. I mean, is this grief? We were 18 months out from Andrew's death. So is this just my life from now on? Is this the way it's always going to be? And quite honestly, he offered me Xanax. I was heartbroken, guys. I'm sitting in front of a man, and I'm looking at him to help me with my grief, and he's just yet offering me another pill. Now, like I said, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 38 years. I totally believe in the science behind medicine, but one thing that I'm not really good at is listening to my body. So I was struggling to live. I was struggling to survive. I wasn't sleeping. I was up all night long. I was eating. I wasn't doing anything right. I wasn't exercising because I had no strength to exercise. I barely had enough strength to function during the day. And so I wanted to tell you how thankful I am for my counselor. My therapist, she said to me one day, she said, Teresa, everything that you're going through is very normal. But, grief at about the 18-month mark to the 2-year mark, it's not that your grief goes away, but your grief does tend to not be as severe and intense as it is in the beginning stages. And she said, I think it's time that you see a hormone specialist, especially at my age. I'm 58 years old. We lost Andrew 2.5 years ago. So I heeded her advice, and I went to see an integrative hormone specialist. And just to make a long story short, she explained to me after all the blood tests that I had done, she said, I don't know how you have survived as long as you have. The fight or flight that I had been in had wrecked my body to the point to where I had my hormones like testosterone wasn't even measurable. It was so low. I didn't have the proper hormones that I needed for my body to make cortisol. My adrenal fatigue was as severe as she has ever seen. And that's significant, guys, because our adrenal glands, there's these little bitty glands that sit on top of our kidneys. This might be a little too much information for some of you all, but I'm a medical person, and this is the way my mind works, but there's these little bitty glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and they are responsible for many things in our bodies. And one of those is cortisol production. And because I had been in the state of fight or flight for 18 months, guess what? My adrenal glands could not keep up with that production. So my cortisol levels were so low that she didn't even know how I was surviving, to be honest. So I went through a mini blood test. We checked my blood levels, not only my venous blood, but we checked my capillary blood. We also checked urine samples to try to get enough information to get me back on the right track. So I want to just encourage you, if that is you, and you have been in the throes of grief for a significant amount of time, and physically you are still exhausted, depression and anxiety are definitely very much a part of grieving, and that's all very normal, guys. When we're in the throes of grief, it's very normal to go through depression and anxiety and all the things. It's just normal. But when I reached out to my primary care doctor, I did not get the answers that I needed. Pharmaceuticals are very important, and I am thankful that we have them. However, starting to take Xanax was not something that I was ready to start doing. I wanted to get to the root of what I was feeling and what was going on in my body, and thank God that I did. It's unfortunate that in medical school they do not train physicians on things like nutrition. I will share with you that one of my coworkers, a friend of mine, Dr. Sunana Sohi, she's on Instagram, and she has a love for teaching. And she just did an interview with WHAS on the importance of gut health. And she talks about the gut microbiome and how important that is in our life. It affects, our gut health. And you guys may have read some about gut health is so important in everything. It's trillions of bacteria that go to work in our GI system that helps us to be healthy. It affects not only our nutrition and the way we feel, it can also affect depression and anxiety. It's huge. And she is a Harvard grad. She's a very educated gal, and just full of a wealth of information. But take a listen to that interview. You can find her on Instagram at Dr. Sunana Sohi. And she's a gastroenterologist, and she even speaks to the fact that in medical school, she was trained very little about nutrition and how important nutrition is. So check that out and listen to what she has to say. But what I want to encourage you to do, guys, if you are in the throes of grief and you are not able to live your life because of fatigue, go to a doctor. Go to the right doctor. I will tell you that I still see a primary care physician, but I also see an integrative hormone specialist, and I also see, my therapist that has been by my side since I started this grief journey. So it's important to reach out to the right folks. And the dangerous thing is, guys, and I do want to mention this, there are tons of supplements out there, and everybody's ready to sell you a set of supplements. You can go anywhere, and whatever they're selling is going to cure you and make your life better, and you're going to lose all the weight that you want to lose if you just take this supplement. The dangerous thing in that, guys, is that so many supplements are adjuncts to things that our body already makes. Case in point is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone that is very much needed for our body to provide our thyroid health. But your body already makes vitamin D. So it's super important that we make sure that we're not overdosing ourselves on vitamin D. Many things are that way. So I, in full disclosure, I take a considerable amount of supplements. However, The doctor that I see, and her name is Dr. Lori Sweat, and she's here in the Louisville, Kentucky area. She is a medical doctor, but she specializes in integrative medicine. So I highly recommend her, especially if you are a woman of mature age, such as myself. Because all the supplements that she has me on were based on what she found out from all of my labs. My lab work, my venous blood, like I spoke about, my capillary blood, and my urine. It's important to know, yeah, you're taking all these supplements, but are they really doing you any good? Is your body able to metabolize them? That's a huge thing, guys. I mean, so many vitamins out there are good for you, but if your body can't break them down and utilize them, it's not doing you any good. You're just, eliminating them in your waste. So supplements are great. But first of all, it's extremely overwhelming to try to figure out what supplements do I need. Well, I have this symptom, so maybe I'll take this supplement. Cortisol manager is something that Dr. Sweat put me on because I was not able to sleep. Now, that's just one of the things that she put me on because my cortisol levels were basically non-existent because I basically had burned out my adrenal glands. Adrenal fatigue is a real thing. It's a real thing, guys, but be careful who you choose to allow to treat you for that. There's a lot of people that practice medicine that are not qualified to do so, or people that practice in the health realms that suggest supplements based on stuff that you tell them. And that can be a dangerous thing to do. So I would encourage you to seek out the right physician for you, somebody who's qualified to give you advice, somebody who's qualified to prescribe things for you, which has been huge for me. And then, diet and exercise. I'm learning a lot of things, but one thing I know for sure is that exercise, and by exercise, guys, I mean getting outside and taking a walk. You can read all you want to about dopamine and serotonin, and those things are very important for our bodies and our moods. And when you get outside and you exercise, serotonin levels increase. You ever heard of the runner's high? That's what that's about. So I know it's really difficult, especially if you're in the early stages of your grief, to thinking about getting outside and walking. I know it was not on my radar. It just simply was not on my radar. But I will tell you that as the weather improved and I was able to, because, we lost Andrew in the fall and then we had the winter months. And of course, there is no time. There's not any time that's good to grieve. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the gloom of the winter months is very depressing, especially, when you're early in your grief. So I hope something I said tonight really helped you. Feel free to message me. I'll be glad to give you more information. I really don't want to share supplements that I take because those things have been ordered for my specific needs. And as I said, guys, I didn't even have enough hormone. There's a hormone called pregnenolone, and it's a precursor to all. It's like the mother hormone, is the way Dr. Sweat explained it to me. It's a precursor of all the other hormones. And so when you're in my stage of life, all that stuff starts to shift and move in a direction of, basically all downhill. And so when she tested the level of my pregnenolone, it wasn't even measurable. My DHEA, which is a precursor to cortisol, in other words, you have to have DHEA to be able to make cortisol, it wasn't even measurable. And so I am not, I was raised with a really strong work ethic, and to the point where, you work hard, you keep your head down and you work hard and you push through it. And when you're raised with that kind of mentality, it's really difficult to listen to your body. And I have learned the hard way, guys, that when you don't listen to your body, you pay for it. You pay for it. I've struggled with my weight my whole life. to be real honest with you. And I've lost weight and I've gained weight off and on throughout the years. But one of my biggest issues is just just using food to comfort me, which you may have had that issue too. But one of the other biggest issues is just not listening to my body and its needs, when to eat, when not to eat, when to stop eating, portion control, all of those things I've struggled with the majority of my life. And I think a lot of it is rooted in how I was raised, because you just did not listen to your body because that was a luxury. You just pushed yourself harder. You just went harder and harder. And I have learned that that is not the right way to go. So I would encourage you to learn to listen to your body. So I hope something I said tonight might help you, because it's a big deal, guys. Our health, grief, stress is a killer. Believe me, stress is a killer. And if we don't find ways to manage our stress, and grief is an incredible stressor. I mean, it's beyond any kind of stress. It is the greatest stress I have ever experienced in my life. And it doesn't go away on its own. You know, time does not heal stress. And if you're grieving, I know you know what I'm talking about. Time alone does not heal our grief. We have to get the help that we need. We have to have a voice for our grief, especially you men. You know, in the devotion that I wrote, there is one that I wrote just for grieving dads, because I watched my husband grieve and I watched how it affected him. You know, they're the strong ones, guys. They're the ones we lean on to carry us through the storm. And when you have that support, and when you're used to that kind of support from your spouse, it's very hard for them to grieve in their own right, because they are being everything that everybody else needs. And I really feel like that part of the issue that Tony is dealing with is because he did take on that role. He was trying to meet our needs, and he was trying to fix something that wasn't fixable, guys. And it has affected his health, and he's gained some weight too. So we are all trying to support one another in this weight loss, because it's kind of like you let your guard down, and you just do whatever you got to do to survive when you're grieving. And I get it. You know, I get it. I drank way too much coffee. I drank way too much caffeine, which was probably terrible for that fight or flight that was going on inside my body. But, you know, I'm 2.5 years out now, and I had a lot of grace for myself because I needed it in the beginning. And now I'm realizing that I made some choices that wasn't great for my health, but it was what I had to do to survive. And food is one of those things, guys, that does bring us comfort. And so I ate too much, and now I'm paying the price for that. But I'm working on that day by day, and maybe you can come alongside me, and we can do this journey together to get our health back on the right track. So seek out the right doctors and be careful who you choose. That's all I have for you tonight, guys, and I talk soon.